Yo.
What up? What up?
Yeah.
Another week. Which episode is this?
Ooh, six. I think six. We're gonna lose count eventually.
Listen, I was gonna say 5 again, but I don't want to be wrong twice in a row. So I'll let you handle that.
It's 6, man. I think. Yeah, man. That's crazy, man. Shout out to you guys for listening and sending the feedback and all that, man. It's been awesome. Having fun.
Yeah. Speaking of feedback, so what are the platforms that you can actually leave feedback? Because it's not all of them.
No. You can leave comments on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube for sure. So if you guys have anything you want to say or you want to rate us, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, go to YouTube, follow us on Instagram at the Carbon Footprint Podcast. Just let us know, man. You guys have been hitting us up through text and stuff, and I'm loving it, man. And people hit us up with like specific things, so I know they're actually listening. They're not just giving me BS, because that or they're fast forwarding like to 20 minutes in, and then whatever that.
It's quite possible.
Yeah, it's quite possible. But anyway, shout out to you guys for at least stroking the ego. We'll take it.
I tell you what, man. Last week, my wife was listening to one of the episodes. I think it was the Bear With Us. And I'm sitting over there, and I don't know if I was working or I was reading or something. And she had the headphones in, and every now and then she just burst out in laughter. And finally, I'm like, what are you listening to? Like, I want in on this. And then she just looks at me, and she's like, you guys are so stupid. And I'm like, all right, well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, same thing. My wife all the time is like, you guys are too much. Like, it's hilarious. And she'll be like, you got to let Sean talk.
I told her, leave you alone, let you do your thing. All right, man, check it. Let me start off with, and I don't even know what we want to call this. I don't even know what we want to call this segment, but these are like the idiotic carbon footprints of the week. There, I just named it. So, in Wisconsin, as I start off with that, I see your face.
Already, yeah, I'm already. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Some worker in like an Anytime Fitness. So the guy does like CrossFit. So he puts together a workout and he calls it the I Can't Breathe workout. I'm like, bro, during this time, and listen, I get it, man. Like, it's not important to everybody and, whatever. But damn, like, can you just not do that?
Yeah.
Like, just don't do that.
You know what I've come to realize, man? I don't know if it's me getting older and I'd like to think wiser or the filter's getting removed, but common sense isn't that common, man. Like that old saying, it's like, it shocks me how often you see stupid things like that to someone and you go, you didn't think there was anything wrong with that? Like, and the crazy part about that whole thing is that like he went through the entire motion of creating a workout. He had to say it a bunch of times. He went there and not once did he go, oh, this probably sounds a little messed up. I should probably move it.
Now, you know what? I wonder if it's the guy just doesn't think it's a big deal. Well, clearly he doesn't, right?
Clearly.
But then maybe I wonder if is it the people that you're around? Is everybody around you have that same take? And is that why you feel comfortable in doing that?
Yeah, I guess. You kind of are who you surround yourself with, right? So, yeah, maybe they don't see it, or maybe they thought it was funny to them, or not a big deal. Or maybe, or was he doing it to be, so I hadn't heard that story. So was he doing it because he thought it was I guess in support of it? Or was he doing it because he thought it was, like, did he think like, oh, I can't breathe, I'm going to do this as a gesture of whatever support? Or was he just thinking?
No, bro, I'm pretty sure he got fired.
Okay. Well, I don't, somebody's mindset, they might think like, oh, I'll name it this and people will love it because I'm showing support. Or was he just that ignorant and then just going?
Yeah.
Either way, it's a bad idea. But it's just, I guess, like I always think of like judge them on the intent, right? Like what was the intent behind it? And then sometimes you just go, you got to have common sense. Like there's the intent behind something and you're being hurtful. Like I think I'm more willing to forgive if you were just stupid versus if you intentionally did that to kind of hurt, that community or make fun of the movement. Because it has shocked me how many people I've seen online with the doing the George Floyd or whatever, the I can't breathe with the knees on people's necks.
Yeah.
Like how insane is that to me that we have people that still do that? I don't know why that shocks me, but it's kind of like, wow, man, we're still in a country where people think.
Yeah, no, it does. It does still shock me. But again, right? You are sort of a product of your past experiences and who you're around and the neighborhoods you live in and the people you associate with. So
Yeah. And I don't, so me, man, I don't, you know me, like I'm not easily offended by anything. Actually, probably nothing, right? And I will defend anyone's right to make a joke. Like I don't think that there isn't anything that's not funny, right? So I think there's going to be things that are not funny to me or not funny to you. But I think I will forever defend someone's kind of right to make that joke. But it has to be funny, right? It has to be, or it has to be the intent behind it has to be to make you laugh, not to the ignorance behind stuff where, you know, like people are doing that and they think it's a funny meme. And it's like, there's nothing funny about that entire thing. So like, I would never defend that part of it. But for the most part, because I know people will be like, you'll say like offensive stuff, or I like to point out like the hypocrisy in a lot of things. So it's not like I deliberately try to kind of, I guess, annoy people, but to me, I go, there's nothing that's off limits, but something like that, it's like, all right, man, that's clearly that isn't an attempt at humor. That's an ignorant attempt at making fun of someone in a movement that was obviously.
Yeah. And listen, I like the dark comedians, right? The guys that make fun of stuff that you're not supposed to make fun of. And again, it's in a setting where you almost expect it. You know, this is this person's style. And I can accept, you know, I truly expect, what is the guy's name that we like?
Oh, Jesselnick?
Jesselnick.
Which he didn't.
Yes.
Even he had the wherewithal to go, yep, I'm gonna sit this one out.
I missed that.
He hasn't.
That's funny.
Like, no, he didn't put that. But I mean, like the fact that he didn't show up, because you're right. Anytime anything crazy happens, my first thought is, what did Jesselnick say? And I go to Twitter and I'm like, all right, where's Jesselnick at? Because he's hilarious.
Yeah, no, and he is, but. Like, you know, you sort of expect him to make fun of things that are not normally made fun of. Yeah. But in this case, man, it's just like actually somebody actually got killed. But
it's so stupid that someone would do that, man. Yeah, like you said, somebody got killed, and then that you thought that was a good idea.
All right, my next person, Dabo Swinney. I'm not a Clemson fan, but I do like college football. I do like what he does with that team. He seems like a really good guy, and I'm sure that he is. Again, kind of going back to what we talked about before. So what he did was he had a shirt that said, I don't know if he had a shirt or if he tweeted or wrote, but he wrote "Football Matters," like Black Lives Matter, football matters. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, like you're surrounded by, right? Like it's going back to what we talked about last time with when you work in a place that's mostly African Americans, and if you don't really get it, like, wouldn't you ask a question?
Yeah, I would think so.
And in this guy's case, like, he's helping to raise young men.
Yeah, young men
and
of all walks of life,
all
right?
walks of life,
of
right?
White young men, right, and black young men. And you got to figure there's white young men in that locker room that go like, yeah, right on, Dabo. And then, then there's the black young men who are, rightfully hurt by this entire thing. Yeah, and did you see the parade then in South Carolina of the Confederate flags? Like people protesting their right to use a Confederate flag. It was a lot of cars, man, like a lot going through, I don't know what little town in South Carolina, but it's literally with the Confederate flag all on their trucks and cars and all that and beeping and having I guess a peaceful protest for their right to display the flag.
But now I mean, it's not you are still allowed to put it up at your house, right?
But like, listen, man, it's the participation trophy for the Civil War, right? So if you want to put that up there,
but I'm just wondering, right? Like they're not taking it out of the stores. They're still being manufactured. I'm sure people can still buy them.
No,
listen, if there's a market for it, you can buy it.
You can buy it. Yeah.
You can buy it, even if it gets made illegal, just like drugs.
Yep.
If there's a market for it,
and listen, again, man. I don't believe in the censorship shit. Listen, put it up. Then I know. Listen, I'm not moving in that neighborhood because there's too many of those there, and I'm not going to be welcome amongst those people. Like, let them all move into their own little community and set up the walls or whatever around it if that's what they want to do.
Who's going to pay for that wall?
Just the ignorant. Oh, man. I don't know. Jeff Bezos. He's got enough.
All right, man.
So stupid.
Last but not least, this woman, and I don't know if you saw this thing online. So it's a Jersey woman. This is your people.
Jersey?
So, and I believe it was a Hispanic woman. just based on what she looked like, and she had the big hoop earrings on, and I've been around people like that.
Her
So,
name
like,
in
I
it?
know, and I want to say her last name was like DeLuca or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so she gets into an almost accident with someone who ran a red light, and apparently her story is like the person ran a red light, the person was black, and then when she sort of avoided the accident, the person that ran the red light looked at her like it was her fault, almost like, what are you doing? And so it just got this woman so pissed off that, of course, what is the first thing you do? Let me get on social media and do a rant. And bro, she rants about, first of all, like, what happens. And then she's just like F all of them, like kill them all.
Jesus Christ.
And so the woman works for Party City. So of course,
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So of course, somebody. I mean, like, hey, listen, we all get mad, and sometimes you say things that you regret in sort of the heat of the moment. People, stop going on social media.
Stop going on
doing that shit. Take 10 minutes and calm the hell down, man. Because wow. So she posted, obviously, that gets shared, whether it was maliciously or not, and the wrong or right people get a hold of it, and then of course Party City gets a hold of it, and somebody else is jobless, as if we don't have enough unemployment.
Dude, and you know what, man? And again, this is why I love the idea of not censoring them and putting it out there, because then you let the market decide, let the people decide, right? Party City has decided they don't want someone like that working for them. Kudos to Party City. And these people, again, you coming out of the closet now and stuff, it's going to be harder for you to get employed. It's going to be harder for you to, find friends or whatever. And I'm sure those people just surround themselves with people who think like them anyway. But, again, I don't want you guys to go back into hiding. I think one of the best things about the Trump presidency is that it did bring people like that out. And then you're like, all right, cool. Then we can all decide whether or not we want to keep associating with you, or whether an employer wants to keep you employed, right? You can't hide in the closet anymore. They will go back into hiding, right? Like, this is going to force people to go, okay, now I got to go back, under the sheets, so to speak. But
no pun intended.
No pun intended. But, this will force people to have, you can't. I'd never understood the, going on a social media and just ripping at someone. Maybe it's therapeutic, I guess, if you don't have a therapist.
You don't have a friend? You can't phone a friend on that?
Yeah, like we do that, right? Like, to each other, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know I'll hit you up and be like, listen, talk me off the ledge on this one, or, but yeah, I've never once in my life thought, I'm going to just go, maybe I might have shared feelings I've had on something that was going on, but I've never been pissed off at someone and go on there like, you know what I hate? When people, especially like the subliminal ones, like, listen, tag the person you're talking shit about. Like, I hate the subliminal messages. Like, I have family who'll put like, I hate when people assume that blah, 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 blah. Or like, they go down on these rants. I'm
and
like, nah,
talking
man.
about somebody,
and they're talking about somebody
call them
clearly,
out.
But they won't call. I'm like, nah, man, tag the person. Because now I need closure. I want to know what you were talking about. I want to know what was popping. Like, oh, yeah, I've never thought of it, but it's wild. I had, and I know we were going to start this last week, we didn't, but my carbon footprint, so thing or person or whatever, leaving a mark, 2020, man, it was what I picked, because, obviously 2020 is shitty for many reasons, mainly people losing their lives, whether through COVID or some of these, racial injustices that have been happening over the last few months, years. But, dude, this is, the more and more I get into 2020, I'm like, this is the reset we needed. Not the lives lost, but I think the people that you're seeing, the companies, the reset from, companies going, yeah, you know what, we've been going about this the wrong way. And people whose jobs, maybe they were unhappy and they got forced out. And, all these things I'm going, 2020 is going to be, I think we're going to look back and we're going to go horrible. But for some people, I think they're going to go, I needed that restart. I needed that kick. And so to me, man, we always harp on trying to find the positive in things. And I think, if anything, man, this year is a year of, listen, if you're not happy with something, this is the time. You can be on unemployment right now, or you can be on, or you can go look for another job that you want, or you want to start something on your own, or you want to, this is the year. So, 2020, man, I think we'll look back on it and we'll go, we needed that. I think Earth needed the reset, but just in general, man, we needed it. So,
no, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that we can take a silver lining out of anything. And, I mean, there's been a lot of positive that came out of this. I think we kind of touched on this a few episodes ago. Like I said, to know people personally, man, that have sort of reset, right? Look at their lives and go, I don't really, I don't need that job to survive. Yep. Right? I could do something else. Maybe I don't get paid as much, but hey, you know what? I kind of realized during this time that I don't need as much. So, kudos to those folks, man. And I hope that everybody out there listening, if you hate your job, now's the time.
Now's the time. Quit.
Now's the time. Like, just, go find something that's, I don't want to say you're passionate, man. That's so easy. That's so easy to say. And
cliche.
Like, I don't know what my passion is. You know what your passion is, bro? Like,
I don't, man. I tell my kids all the time, like, when they're like, I want to be this when I grow up. I'm like, and they'll be like, what did you want to do? I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I'm just here experimenting with anything and everything, and I like to try stuff. And you know me, man. I like to try a little bit of everything. And I haven't found that one thing that I go, I want to wake up and do that every day. Right. But I do know I just want to try stuff every day, right? Like, man, this whole thing is short, so I want to experience as much as I possibly can. So I go, I just like to try stuff, man.
Well, speaking of work, and you got the guys in like NBA, right? NBA, MLB, NFL, all trying to like sort of start up or not start up, right? What's your take on? Because right now, so the NFL is kind of ramping up to start. The NBA is talking about starting, I want to say it's like a 22-game season, and then they're going to go right into the playoffs, and they're going to start here in Orlando. Yeah. Right? So it's going to have sort of one central location where they're going to play all these games. And then Major League Baseball just can't get their shit together. So we'll leave them off the table. But the players now, some of the players are coming out going, hey, you know what? I think this is like a form of entertainment. It's not a necessity. And with all the stuff going on right now, maybe we shouldn't play. Maybe playing will be a distraction. What do you think about that?
Man, so I respect the opinion of that, right? That they, I guess feel that way. And kudos if you're a player, I think, and you're making $20 million a year, $30 million a year, and you've got a little nest egg there, that's kind of easier for you to say. And I don't necessarily think that they don't believe that. But I think then they're also leaving out the other people who the league employs, right? Like it's not just players, right? There's team, the teams employ a lot of people, front office people, back office people, everything from a janitor, right, to a GM. So it's not that simple. I also think that you have this platform that you should use, right? Like this is an opportunity, I think, to bring more light to it. Like, yeah, there's going to be, it's going to take some eyeballs away from the news, right? We're not going to follow the protests maybe on the news or the riots on the news or anything, but maybe this just becomes a different medium where you're exposing some truths. Like maybe you start a game off with a snippet of a video of something, right? Or maybe, and then you donate. I think we talked about this before where you go, if you feel that way, then go to the ownership and go, hey, I'd like to take a percentage of our profits or whatever and donate it to causes that help kind of push this forward. I don't think that sitting out is the best move, but that's just me. I mean, I think,
Yeah, no, man. And I did it when I first heard it. I was just like, makes sense. And this is sort of the player's way to take a stance or to help take the stance on the subject. But then I'm going, man, that platform, like who gets that kind of TV time? Who gets that kind of FaceTime in front of millions of people and in some cases worldwide audiences, right? You could use that, use that to your advantage. And I don't think that any time, and I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, people leave a comment, call me out. But I don't think that any time in history when civil rights was being fought for, that people stopped going to work.
No, absolutely not. Like you want attention, right?
Right. But I think that, right, it's like no matter what it is, obviously being an athlete and the kind of coverage you get, the kind of TV coverage you get is crazy. But even if you're going back into the 60s, right, and even if you're not, even if you're just the normal protester and right, if you're marching with Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or what have you, like these people still went to work, like they had to support themselves.
You still have to do stuff. I think too is just they should shift the conversation to how can we use this platform? Like to your point, you have this platform. So then instead of going, hey, we don't want to take away from this, going, how can we use this platform that we have to bring more attention and more, I guess, advancement in this whole thing. Even dude, up until a couple of hours ago, I didn't realize that LGBTQ could be discriminated against in 26 states in this country. You could be discriminated against by an employer if you were gay, lesbian, trans. They passed something today. 26 states.
So hold on. Let me get this straight.
Mind blowing.
So you can not hire them?
I guess. I don't know the extent of it, but there wasn't a law that said that you couldn't basically discriminate against someone for being lesbian, gay, trans, queer. There's so many LGBTQ plus, I guess we're supposed to call it now. Anyone who belongs in that community, essentially, you were not protected by law. In 26 states, which is crazy to me that in 2020, up until literally a few hours ago, the Supreme Court passed something. Obviously on the heels where Donald Trump took rights away on Friday for, I think there was medical coverage, and I don't want to get this all wrong, but it had something to do with where you could discriminate against certain, needs or medical procedures, or you could somehow discriminate against someone based on their sexual orientation or what they felt like their sexual orientation was medically. And there was something passed a few years ago that said you could no longer do that. So they would recognize it, and you could get, I think, certain things done under your insurance policies. And Donald Trump essentially reversed that last week on the anniversary of Post, by the way, which again, that's definitely by design. But then today the Supreme Court passed something basically giving rights again, which, this is this movement is obviously for Black people and racial equality right now, but I think the LGBTQ community is going to get something out of this. We saw women get kind of their time the last few years, with the whole Me Too movement. And so, I think anything where we're making progress, I think if sports can help kind of marry those two things together and bring more attention to it, and I'm always all for that. And selfishly, I probably just want to watch some basketball at this point in time. But, I do think that they can use that platform for something. Well,
yeah, I mean, definitely. I do want to see sports as well. But I think that the movement is important, right? Yeah. One thing I will say over the last week, maybe even 2 weeks, probably mostly over the last week, there's been some things coming out, and I'm wondering is it not, I don't want to choose the word like too much, because it's not too much, but I feel like the question that I have is like, what's the goal? Like, what's the immediate goal, right? Like now, you can't just say systemic racism because you're not going to solve that. That's a really big umbrella, right? So what is what are the things we want now? And what are we focusing on now? Because let me tell you, there's been some stuff coming out. Like I saw something about, the Disney ride, Thunder Mountain.
Oh, yep.
The roller coaster.
Yep.
So you've worked at Disney before, right?
Yep.
So when you go in that line and you're in the line, all the drawings on the wall and stuff, that was actually from a Disney movie made back in, I want to say, in the 1940s called The Song of the South, and it has a lot of like racial and sort of like slavery undertones in the movie. The movie was actually never released here in the U.S., but that ride to all the cartoons and stuff, the drawings are from that movie.
Okay.
And so now there's a group going, like, that's not right. You need to retheme the ride. I don't disagree, but I'm going, okay, people, like, we're not going to get everything. Right?
Yeah,
like,
right. Let's focus on
Can we focus on what's the important piece? Like if we say, okay, it's police brutality, right? So we need police reform, like they need to be retrained or fired and rehired, right? Somebody held up a sign, and I don't know how true it is, that it was like, and I'm gonna get the number of hours wrong, but the number of hours that a hairdresser has to train was like more than a police officer.
Oh no, it definitely is. It definitely is. Yep.
So, looking at stuff like that, where you go, maybe we need to, hire better people. Maybe we need to be more picky about the folks that we hire. And then even when we're picky, we need to provide the proper training and what have you. Now, listen, the cops, the police officers, them guys and gals go through some crap,
For sure.
And bless them. And we need them. So disbanding police precincts, I don't think is the right move. But again, to get back to my point of what is the immediate goal? Yes, you want to try to resolve systemic racism as a whole, but it's too big of an umbrella. So what are we going after first? We can't go after everything.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you have to have something where you say, okay, what are we tackling now? So we're going to tackle police brutality, and maybe that's through training and education or programs in the system. I actually think, I keep leaning towards, I know there's the whole defund the police movement, and I that doesn't mean, and then people take that to mean, like the police are going to go away. You're not going to give them any money. That just means give them less money. You're still going to have a police force and all that stuff. But I remember reading online and people are thinking, oh, you're going to shut them down because people were asking to defund. And basically defunding just means you give them less. The police officers get the bulk of the budget in most towns, right? So I think taking dollars that are allocated to that and maybe putting it in the education system, and then you put programs there where you start tackling kids at a youth, because we talk about this all the time, is that if you're someone who, I don't want to say racist, because maybe you're just ignorant, you're raising ignorant kids too, right? So you go, it never ends. So where do you go that you can say, hey, I can get to the most minds and eyeballs, the most, I guess, and with the least amount of resistance or the least amount of work? It's the school system, right? Everyone goes every day. And so why not go and fund more education for stuff like that? I also think, and I'm almost of the mindset of, you go the opposite way with cops, is you pay them more and make it harder to be a cop.
But therein lies your discrepancy, right? You're gonna defund them, or you're gonna take away funds from them to put it somewhere else. It doesn't leave money to pay them more.
So I think what you do is you take away shit like the riot gear stuff that we spend in a ridiculous amount of money on. Like, not to say that we don't need it, right? But do you need it for every cop? Right? Do you need it for every?
So do I get to tell you, hey man, that's your riot gear? There's a riot, you go out there.
Well, maybe there's a specific team, or maybe you go, if we don't need it, right? Or if we do all these other things, we won't need that. Right, like I go, maybe it's the equipment. Maybe you spend less on certain pieces of equipment. Like, I don't know what because I'm sure there's nuance in this, right? Like that we're missing because we're not, in the back offices of this, or we're not out boots on the ground. But you go, I think it should definitely be harder to be a cop, for one, right? Like, I think I'm sure some people, I know some people for sure who barely got through high school and are like, I'll just go be a cop, right? Like. So to me, you pay them more and make it harder to be a cop. And then whether you require some kind of criminal justice degree or, whatever it is, but then you make the training more rigorous, because we do it for our military. We were talking, how much money do we pump into the military in training and all this stuff? And you put them in scenarios that are more dangerous, right? And I can put someone out in a war zone and they'll make smarter decisions than a cop here amongst civilians. It just doesn't add up to me that. And so I go, clearly there's a discrepancy there in how you train cops and then how you train our military, because I can be a cop in 6 months or a year or whatever it is. Because I remember actually I was, gosh, man, I'm going to go back to 2007-ish. And I thought about going to the police academy. And I remember I was in college and I thought, okay, I'll apply for this. And then I was trying to decide whether I wanted to go the state trooper route or Orange County or Orlando Police Department, whatever it was. And I remember going through the requirements, and it was something like in less than 2 years, I would have been a police officer. Like, and it was like the 2 years, it wasn't like training. There was the classroom time, obviously, which was X amount of time. And then the actual physical training stuff was really short. It wasn't hard. And you said there's hairdressers out there who have to go through more. It just doesn't make sense. And so you go, I'm going to give this guy a weapon and all this stuff, and then go, give him 6 weeks of training. It just doesn't add up, because even military, what do you get through boot camp? Is it 12 weeks? And then,
yeah, well, that's Marine
but you
Corps,
live and breathe it.
Yeah, Marine Corps boot camp is 12 weeks. It may be different now. When I went through, they didn't have what's called the Crucible, which is sort of like this last phase of boot camp. I don't know if it got extended when they implemented the Crucible. But roughly 12 weeks. But then after that, I went to Marine combat training. And again, this is in the 90s. So if it's different now, I'm sure it may be different now. We did about a month of Marine combat training. And then based on the job that you picked, you would go to school for that. So like for me, it was like I went to like an A school, which was someplace. And that was probably about 3 months or so. And then I went like another 3 months to like a B school. So I want to say, altogether, I want to say it was roughly 9 months of until you actually get to your duty station and then start work.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what that is, but I do think you're right. Yeah, like there's something we have to decide. Okay, what's the move now, and then focus our energy on fixing that, and then on the next piece, right? It's the whole, you build a wall brick by brick, right? So you go, what's the next brick? What are we trying to get at? Is it police? Okay, cool. How do we fix that? Let's jump on that. Is it federal reform? Is it, the different bodies of review? Because right now, the police, any reviews are done by other police, which doesn't make sense because it's, again, it's having your peers basically go another. If I'm an accountant and you have another accountant review my work who has to come see me later on and we got to work together, it's like that it doesn't make sense, right? How likely am I to hold someone accountable that I have to see and talk to every day and all that? It just seems weird, right? So maybe you have a different body because clearly there's the wall of silence, I guess the blue wall of silence. They kind of protect their own. And again, maybe that's something culturally that has happened over the years because of other things and cops kind of feel.
Dude, I could see that, man. I mean, I remember being when I was in the Marines, when I would come home, I remember like missing being around other Marines, and it was and again, this is just me personal. I remember looking at other people that were, I guess, civilians, right? Yep. And just thinking like, man, they have no idea what. Like what I'm about now and the training and right. And so you you really develop that bond I talked about last week. You really develop that bond with others, with others in your group. Right. And so I could totally see, cops banding together because they go through some shit and when you go through stuff together, it's a bond, man.
Yeah.
You develop a bond. So
for sure. And I'd like to think, maybe they hold each other accountable behind closed doors or something like that. But, hopefully, I think we're making moves in the right direction. So hopefully this stuff, it seems like it's definitely going the right way. And I think, don't let up. I also think, what's funny, and I would never condone the violence, but it's interesting to me that I don't know that without the riots and all that we would be here right now at this stage, meaning of all these corporations getting brought in, of all these all the movements going on, that are kind of starting to take shape, and the wave is getting bigger. You wouldn't have done that peacefully, I don't think, because we've tried it, right? So I think that, this last thing was so egregious that I think you almost needed, and certainly you didn't want people to die, right, through riots, but it's like, I don't value a building over a human being. So if it took a building being burnt down for some people to wake up and go, oh, you know what, this is, then so be it. I think it was, I don't know that we get here without the riots. I saw a lot of people knocking the riots. And I think, it's sad and obviously you shouldn't loot and whatever it is. But I go, it took that for us to get here because when people tried it peacefully, it didn't get the attention, right? So whether it got your attention because you were, going out and saying, hey, guys, don't do this, it got your attention, right? So it made you go, guys, don't do this. Let's do it this way. But it just went to show it needed to take that next step, I think, for this to all happen. I don't know that if we, and again, maybe this incident was so egregious that maybe that on its own would have been enough with peaceful protests. I don't think so. And I think we've shown it time and time again that, again, the cap thing, he tried it and it didn't work, and other people have tried it and it didn't work. So I think you almost needed this level of rioting and protests, I think, to get attention for certain things. But hopefully that's over now. And
so I heard a story from a police officer that I know, and one of the stores that he had sort of another cop buddy that came up on a Foot Locker, and they were looting the Foot Locker, right? And he walks in there, and it's not what you would expect, right? It's not people running in, and in some cases, I guess it was that way, running in and grabbing stuff and running back out. But there were several cases where people were in there literally trying on sneakers.
You got these in an 11 before I take them?
These don't fit.
These don't
exactly right.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Let me go to the back and rummage through and grab my right side.
It's hard for me to feel bad for Target or Foot Locker or anyone on Fifth Ave. Not to say as a company you have the cash, right? You'll be fine, but all that stuff is going through insurance claims. It's like, I don't feel bad. Like, I'm like, you lose a product and all that stuff. And then the people going, oh, there's people with small shops who built, again, you're going to get insurance to cover that. Or as a government, as a local government, as a mayor or whatever, you should step in then and help individuals who did maybe lose their shops and all that, right? Like if we're willing to bail out, our government just showed we're just printing money, right? To bail people out, then then help these people too. Say, hey, they lost it. Don't let them go under or lose everything that they worked for. Yeah, bail them out.
Aren't we getting another check?
Probably. Listen, we're just printing money left and right, man.
I heard there's another check coming.
By the end of this, everybody's going to have a Lambo, right? College is going to be paid off. We're all getting $1,200 checks, which, by the way, that was the price of freedom for us. Nobody said a damn thing when they were sending out $1,200 checks. For a month, we were good. Everybody's like, yep, keeping my mouth shut. You want me to stay home how long? Cool. And when that wore off, when they spent the $1,200, people hit the streets.
You know what's funny, man, is that, and there's a few other podcasts I listen to, but even in the place where I work, the e-commerce sales went up after people got that check.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, man, like nobody's paying their rent or buying groceries.
You're not supposed to.
They're just going to go buy stuff.
It's to stimulate an economy, right? So technically you're supposed to spend it on frivolous shit.
I don't know, man. I would think that you would go and make sure your rent was paid.
Nah.
Or make sure you get some food on the table.
There's a separate program for the rent and the mortgage, man. So why would you do that? Oh, man. Yeah.
All right, dude. So what's going on in Seattle, man? I keep hearing the chat. Dude,
We got to talk
all
about
I
that.
know is that they got like this some place the size of Central Park blocked off.
Yep, yo, they're pretty much, I guess, for you, those who haven't heard the thing called Chaz, Google it. It's fucking fascinating. I think they changed the name today to CHOP for whatever reason, but it's basically a zone, I guess, the size of about Central Park. It's like 6 blocks.
But is it a group?
It's a group of people who've decided, who live in this community, and it's mostly like a I don't want to say progressive community, but it's
Hippie.
it's hippie, yeah. I mean, but Seattle's kind of like
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
So it's a group of people who basically said like are denouncing the government, denouncing police officers. So they basically want to be self-governed. It's its own country.
They took over the precinct.
They took over
right?
the precinct. Yeah, they took the precinct was evacuated, and they're like, all right, cool, don't come back. It's ours now. And then so these people have a barricade around it. I love how in the most progressive country in the world we built a wall in a
Who paid for that wall?
Jeff Bezos. He's putting up walls left and right. But in Seattle, they basically have, and they're trying to go, I guess, they're trying to separate themselves from the country and be their own country. Which, listen.
So I'm assuming that they have somebody in charge.
Yeah, there's one guy that's in
What is
charge.
he, like a warlord?
Probably that's what he's going to be looked at, right? This isn't going to end well, but I think it's hysterical that shit is so bad right now that even the mayor there's like, yeah, that's, those guys. We'll get to that later.
They're not bothering anybody.
They're not bothered. Yeah, pretty much their stance has been like, oh, they're not bothering. It's not a threat. Like, leave them be. Kind of like, it's nuts. Any other time, this would be like front and center. Like, hey, there's a neighborhood trying to separate itself from America or from a thing. 2020, we're like, what? Oh shit, we should try that. It's like you want to separate yourself from. And funny, man. I go, everything sounds crazy until it's not, right? So you go, what if this really does go through and these people end up being like their own country, right? And
No
you go,
way, dude. It's like smack in the middle of the city.
it's Escape from New York.
Yeah.
It's basically. It's you ever played The Last of Us? Shout out Naughty Dog. There's a video game called The Last of Us, man, and the premise of the game is fantastic storytelling. I know you don't play games, but it's like a zombie apocalypse type thing, and people live in these like quarantine zones, right? So they build walls, and it's basically so you build these communities, and people are safe within these walls. And when I saw like the video, it reminded me of like that video game where you're like in the safe zone, and so like once you leave those walls, it's like it's free, like anything can come and get you. It's anarchy, yeah. But when you're within those walls, it's a safe space. It's like that works until those people need food. And then you need because if you're not letting anything in or out, right? Like, what do you, are you going to grow your own vegetables and farm? And
I'm assuming there's obviously homes in there, businesses.
Yes.
Right? So are they still open?
Some of them are like a part of it. But yeah, some of them are like peace out.
So is the you call them Chaz?
It's called Chaz. I think they changed the name to Chop because it's like something.
But is that's the name of the group?
Yes, or that's the name of the
area.
movement of the area, I guess is what they call it. So the Nation of Chaz or whatever they're gonna call it. I don't know, man. It's wild. Somebody leave a comment, correct me, but yeah, dude, they're starting their own little community, which they'll go in there and they'll figure it out. They'll take out the leader or whatever, and then but Seattle, man, that shit only happens in Seattle where there's just like.
Have you been to Seattle?
I have not. I've not. I've heard
So
stories, but
I went there. When the hell did I go there? A few years ago, and it was for work. Dude, the homeless population there, and I'm from New York originally, right? So I'm used to dealing with homeless and being around sort of drug addicts, and right. No, dude, that Seattle is another level. Seattle's the amount of homeless people in Seattle is disturbing.
what do you think causes that in Seattle?
Well, from what I was told when I was there, so people don't quote me on this, but I was told by somebody from Seattle, at least at the time, there was an ordinance in the city that basically said you can pitch a tent wherever you want. And there was a few places where there was some exceptions.
Okay.
But for the most part, if you wanted to go to Seattle and didn't want to get a hotel, you could sleep on the street and nobody would bother you. And so there's a lot. And it's funny because, like, normally what I'm used to with homeless is, that whether they sit down in there and as people pass, they beg for money or they have signs or what have you, right? No, man, like these people were going about their lives, like getting up, they congregate, they're playing music, they're smoking weed,
So do you think maybe they're employed and they're just choosing to
No.
live this way, or like
well,
what do you like?
I mean,
what
that could be. They did a story on 2020, where there was people there that are sort of like that actually have families and they actually have jobs, but but like they didn't make enough to live there, so they were living out of their car. So there are people like
there are
that.
people like that? Yeah.
But the people that I saw, like, and I was only there for maybe like 3 days, so this is like my trek of 10 blocks between my hotel and place of business. Dude, it was crazy. And the vast majority of them don't ask you for anything.
That's wild to me because I'm trying to think if I was in that predicament and I had to live out in the streets, right? And I don't know if there's some kind of resource or something they all go to, like, okay, cities that are friendly to be homeless, or maybe they're here through the grapevine, because I know San Francisco has a similar problem. But there's no way that I'm trying to live in a cold weather city if I'm homeless. Like Southern California makes sense to me, right? Like, but you go to Seattle it's fucking freezing, like 9 months, 10 months out of the year, and it's raining. Like, I just don't understand. Like, as a homeless person, what would keep you there?
Yeah, like leave.
Yeah, just start walking. Like you don't have anywhere to be tomorrow.
Just walk south.
Just walk south. Like,
yeah, but I think that's it, right? So if you go south, what's south is California. And then if you go, I can't live there, of course, the living is worse than here. Now, granted, listen, I think there's always an alternative, right? You don't have to, if where you're at is too expensive to live, you need to leave.
You need to leave, yeah.
Right? But on that same trip, you mentioned San Fran. I went to San Fran. And again, that one I was only there for like a day. And again, like hotel to place of business. So I didn't get to see too much of the city. I saw some homeless. No, dude, it's not even close.
Really?
Seattle is, I can just describe it as, it's disturbing. I saw a couple outside of Target with a piece of cardboard in front of the door, and with two very young children. When I say very young, one of them was probably like 1, and the other one was maybe like 3. And the lady changing the diaper right there in front of Target's door. Outside, legs up, wiping up the ass, right? Gives the diaper to the husband. He walks down the alley and dumps it in the trash can. And they just hang out there. Now, I'm assuming they're in front of Target, probably asking for money as people come in and out, right? But the vast majority of homeless that I passed when I was there did not ask me for anything. There were a few.
There
were a few.
You know, it's interesting, man, and I don't know if this speaks to the way the countries are ran, but I was in London like just before Christmas, back in December. So London, another kind of town in the UK, a little north of London, but London, major city, right? You would say probably top 3 cities in the world as far as population or just influence. And so anyway, a major city. And I remember walking around and thinking to myself, I haven't seen many homeless people. Like, I can count on one hand how many homeless people I saw in London in a few days. And I'm telling you, I went through all the tourist attractions, right? Like, I saw obviously the London Eye, you go to Buckingham Palace, you go to all these places, and I saw some And most of the time, anytime I saw one, they were walking and they were like talking to themselves. So clearly like some kind of mental health issues and they were going there. But I didn't see people set up like outside, like sleeping. And I'm talking, I walked 20 miles in that city in a day.
Oh, wow.
And I saw literally probably less
You
than
don't
5.
walk?
I did there.
You're domesticated.
It's you know what's funny? It's the only time I love to walk is when I'm in a city that I've never been to. To me, that's like the best way to see a city is to walk it. So I love walking because you know you get to the alleyways and you get the streets and you get like so you get to experience it. But I remember going like, man, I've been to major American cities in the U.S. where there's homeless people everywhere, right? And then I remember asking people like, hey, like I couldn't help but notice there wasn't, and what a lot of people there were telling me, they're like, no, the government takes care of them. Like if you're homeless here, it's always mental health related most of the time, or you just want to live outside. Like, but they go, they're actually the way their government set up is that they have a place to live and they have money for food and have stuff. Like you'd never have to live outside, and obviously much smaller population, much smaller, you know, because I think people will look at something like that here, especially, and go, oh, we need to have, you know, our healthcare paid for like they do in the UK and stuff. Listen, you talk to them and they have their beefs with the healthcare system and they have their beefs with the government.
Every country
does, yeah.
that has the healthcare has something negative to say about it.
Listen, everyone I spoke to goes like, yeah, they have the healthcare here, but I still pay for my private one if you want to get shit done. Like every single one of them's like, yeah, but I still pay for my. So yeah, it's I just remember it being shocking, going, wow, the difference between that city that's so big, so international, and there wasn't a lot. Where again, I've been Rome, they were everywhere in Rome. I saw homeless people everywhere, and I don't know what policy is. Maybe a lot of them were, from what I understood from some, there were immigrants from other countries who obviously couldn't get help. But in Rome, I've never seen as many older homeless people too, which also blew my mind. Like I saw homeless people who had to be in their 80s, and I've never seen that anywhere. But yeah, London was shocking to me that I go, wow, I didn't see anybody here that was, or I saw like 3 or 4 people in 20 miles. And I went to every single major landmark, and that's usually where people like to huddle around because that's where you beg, because that's where the most people are. None. It shocked me. It's just the difference in how they take care of the people. But again, much smaller country. You know, the space, London is probably, you know, I guess they have other big cities in the UK, but that's the biggest by far. So yeah, it just the differences in how it's ran. Yet also, I thought it was hysterical. I might have told you this story before. I'm watching the news, right? And they do their own like Good Morning America type thing. It's like Good Morning Britain. And they were just livid over stabbings. Like literally people getting stabbed. And they're like, we've had 20, you know, whatever, or like 100 stabbings this year alone. It's December.
No one died?
Some did, some didn't. But
wait. I missed that. 21 and it was December?
Like 100 something stabbings, and it was December. Yeah, something like that. Where people
doing good.
So there was these political parties like reaming the I guess the mayor of London for not doing anything about all these stabbings. And I was like, you amateurs. I was like, what? It's like a high schooler in America takes care of that body count.
Chicago had that many yesterday.
Yeah, it's like, man, which obviously again it goes to show they had no shootings, no nothing. You know, they were just livid about people being stabbed. I mean, livid. And there was people like Piers Morgan and all these other like pundits, and they're just like, I can't believe, you know, they haven't done anything. All these people are being stabbed. And I'm going, and I'm listening to it going, stabbed. And I was like, am I hearing that correctly? Like, do they mean stab? Like stab? I'm thinking maybe this is like
it's some kind of term.
Yeah, some kind of term for something else. And nope, it was literally people getting stabbed, and they were just beside themselves that many people got stabbed.
Dude, it just goes to show you too, right? That just humans in general, like, I don't know, are we wired to just be like, we're never satisfied?
No.
We aren't.
No.
We aren't. We're never satisfied. It doesn't matter how good things get. Like, we could always find something wrong. It's never gonna be perfect, and we're always gonna complain about something.
Oh yeah, dude. I remember literally watching that and going, we had one guy get half of that body count in one incident in Vegas. Like, I mean, obviously you don't want that stuff to happen, but it just goes to show, like, yeah, they're at a space where, right, guns aren't an issue and all that stuff, but now they're livid about people getting stabbed. Right. And second, man, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I think while I was there, or the week before I was there, maybe this is what sparked the whole conversation anyway, was some guy went on the London Bridge and went on a stabbing rampage. I'm going to tell you right now, bro, if we are anywhere and I see people 40 yards away get stabbed, and that same guy makes his way to me and I get stabbed too, I'm not going to say I deserve to get stabbed.
Cut off my leg.
But damn, bro. Like, How do
You couldn't run.
You couldn't.
You didn't
Yeah.
see that person over there.
You literally watched that and went, oh damn, look at that guy stabbing everybody. Oh, he's getting closer to
Man,
us.
he's coming this way.
He's coming this way. Oh, he stabbed that lady 4 people away. Oh, he might get to us here any minute now. Oh shit, is he wielding at me? No, that's my neighbor. All right, wait. It's like, how do you watch? I don't get it, man.
Yo, so you spending some little bit of time over there, and them being in like this upheaval about stabbings.
Yep.
What do they think about us?
Oh, they were fucking nuts. They think we're nuts. Yeah. But I think they're nuts. So it's funny. Like and obviously, and it's all playful. But we were going back and forth about stuff like that. And some of the people I got to speak with, they're super intelligent people. This is obviously during even the Brexit thing, and I don't know enough about it to even have an opinion about it. But they're kind of filling me in on here's the Brexit thing, here's the issues with the stabbing thing, here's the and really smart guys. And so they just like us, they had their take. Where like it's a little extreme. Maybe it's this party that really wants this, or this party really wants that. But they think like the gun thing drives them insane with us, and and obviously you try to defend it because you're like, listen, I'm not gonna have you talking about my people, but
right.
They're like, they just don't get it. Like it's nuts to them. I remember the first time I went to, maybe it was in Spain or something like that. But I remember having a glass of wine somewhere, and the people in the table next to me were having wine. So the people in the table next to me were having wine, and their kid was drinking wine with them. And when I say kid, man, I'm talking like maybe 11, 12 years old, and they're having wine. And the waiter was by, brings them a glass. The kids are having wine. I look at the people I'm having dinner with who were locals, and I go, do you like kids here drink wines? Because like the restaurant served them. And then the guy looks at me without skipping a beat and goes, yeah, only you dumbasses would give them guns, but not a glass. I'm like, all right, fair point. He goes, but these kids were like 12. And he goes, yeah, you can at 18 here, you can go to a bar, or 16, I think, something crazy. You can go and have a beer. You can do all this stuff. They're like, why wouldn't you, again, what's the worst you're going to do? You're going to get in a cab or you're going to get in a subway and stab a bunch of people. If you go haywire, like, what are you?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
There's not a whole lot of driving.
And that's been a point here for many years, right? Where you go, you can defend your country at 18, but you can't drink.
Yeah, which is, honestly, I think then raise the age to both, right? Like raise the age to the, because whatever, males aren't developed till like our mid 20s. Like we're stupid. Like there's a reason our life expectancy is shorter. Like, we're dumb, right? Like we do a lot of dumb shit, but you go, I know maybe you need that dumb, fearless testosterone and not knowing any better when you putting people in scenarios like that to defend your country. But also like the idea that you would put an 18, 19-year-old out there is crazy to me when, you think about your thought process at 18 or 19. I know my thought process at 18 or 19. Like I had no business making any kind of life decisions at that age.
I had a 17-year-old. I had a 17-year-old kid in my platoon in boot camp, and it was I think his parents. I don't know if he had graduated high school early, and then he had to get his parents sort of consent.
But that kid, you guys went out, and then that kid couldn't have a beer with you guys.
Nope.
But if you guys went on a mission to go take out whatever,
he could definitely die.
He could die.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is, again, nuanced. There's a lot of layers to that, but it's just crazy to me. But anyway, they think it's the funniest shit in the world. Whenever you talk to people out there, they're just like, and the other interesting part about being out there that I loved was that the news covered our politics like 24/7.
Really?
Yeah. So there were some
channels,
not their own, man. And obviously they had their Brexit stuff going on, so it was a big deal. So there were channels covering that, but there was a lot of channels covering our politics.
Dude, it sells.
They're like, this shit's nuts. And they go, one of the guys goes, we used to make fun of you guys, but then we got our prime minister and this whole Brexit thing happened, and now we're kind of like, we're just as stupid as.
So are the people like against that? I know we have some companies that we're working with.
Yeah.
That I want to say this month, at the end of this month, they're going to make a decision on which way they're going to go.
Well, it changes.
And it's going to change things and how we deal with them and information we send back and forth and what have you. So I know it's a big deal for them.
So most people that I spoke to were against the idea. So here's, and actually, and I'm going to say this is the best way somebody explained it to me, but obviously, again, this is I'm coming from an American, but a Brit, what he explained to me was, he goes, it's kind of what you guys were doing with the wall. Where Trump was like, we're going to build a wall, we're going to build a wall, we're going to build a wall. He goes, basically, our wall was because Europe is so open and people can come in and out, meaning, so he goes, people from other countries can easily come into big cities like London and get jobs, stuff. So the locals are feeling like, well, they're taking our jobs. kind of thing. So they go, the push is really more from people like that who feel like immigrants and all that are coming there to steal jobs, and they're making it more difficult to do other things. So, or taking up taxpayer money or whatever it is. So he goes, that's really the best way I can explain it. Is what he told me. He goes, like, that's really what it boils down to. He goes, because there's so many upsides, and he's giving me all the upsides of having the country open. And obviously from an economic perspective, it absolutely makes sense to have that be an open kind of country, because now this changes a lot for them. Not only, obviously, people think of, oh, now you're going to need a passport, but now, like if you're a company that used to just be able to cross a border and deliver something over there and work with them, you can't, or it's more difficult now, right? Like now you're filling out customs forms. And now you go, okay, do I even want to deal with that now? Maybe I just go to somewhere in my town or in my country, or so. There's a lot of downsides.
Or you just go somewhere else in the European Union.
Yep. Yeah.
That,
that allows that still. And then you figure there's going to be a coalition, right? If these people are going to go, well, why don't we band together, since these guys want to be on their own, and just interchange between ourselves? Like, I don't know what the major kind of export from London is and all that. I mean, obviously they're a big kind of financial hub, but yeah, I know a lot of people had some real concerns that I spoke to. And again, these are people, smart people, business owners, executives, and a lot of them had some concerns going, it doesn't, they felt like, again, the move of it was very much us voting for Trump because we wanted a wall. That's what they compared it to. They're like, that's pretty much what it's like.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very boring.
This is ignorant American.
Yeah. Very boring.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Yeah. Dude, I got to touch on I know we were talking about Confederate flags earlier, but this NASCAR thing. You seen the NASCAR guy who, like the one black guy like Bubba Wallace, right, in NASCAR, obviously says.
Okay, so I don't know shit about NASCAR. Okay. So when I see the picture of this guy, Bubba Wallace, I don't know that he's black. So he's kind of like a little mochaccino. Got the mochaccino skin, the broad shoulders.
Yeah, like he could be mixed. Right. Or he could be, yeah.
And then with a name like Bubba, I'm going like, I don't know, right? So he is black.
He is black.
Okay.
He's the only black full-time driver in NASCAR. And then obviously, once the Confederate flag removed, has the car done up with the Black Lives Matter, looks super cool, the car and all that stuff. But to me, I go, it would have meant more in that sport if it came from one of the white drivers. Like, I'm like, of course the black driver. I mean, granted, he's been racing there for years and never asked for the Confederate flag to be removed, or maybe he did behind closed doors. I mean, who knows? But I thought it was funny how they're just like, yeah, they're like, oh, Bubba made it harder for himself to, I guess he's going to experience some kind of racism. And listen, I've been to a NASCAR event. Daytona I've been to a lot of sporting events in my life, man. The funnest thing I have ever been to in my life was a NASCAR event. Hands down. Wasn't even close, right? It was the full package experience.
Yeah, why?
There was definitely some racism, right? But I think, especially me, I'm in a group. I'm a brown dude, right? I went, a girlfriend at the time, now wife, and we went, and then there was a buddy of ours who I worked with, he was black. Another guy was white. So it was like a pretty diverse group of us, right? But a lot of people there were just knocking, you can tell that there's some racial undertones about stuff. But the event was fun, and by the end of it, everyone's like partying with us and high fiving us and giving us crap.
Everybody was drunk by the end.
Everybody was drunk by then, so everybody was having a good time. But NASCAR was the funnest thing I've ever been to.
So who were you rooting for?
Juan Pablo Montoya. Listen, and this guy goes, and I didn't know shit about NASCAR. And actually, that event, that whole thing turned me into like a Jimmy Johnson fan, because I thought it was so cool. This is before Jimmy won any of his things, but I remember going.
Of course you were.
They're like doing driver like little laps and announcing thing, and I'm like, Juan Pablo, and this guy next to me goes, fuck Juan Pablo. And I was like, hey man, like what's up with Juan Pablo? He goes, he always causes wrecks. And I was like, isn't that what you guys all do, is cause wrecks? He goes like, no, but he always causes wrecks. We fucking hate him. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like there's something else there, right? So, no bullshit.
You sure there's no other reason behind that?
Yep. I'm like, are you sure? I'm pretty sure because the only guy out here who
of course.
Yeah, bro, it was so wild. The race starts. The guy's telling me this again. Was friendly, right? Like, I'm like, I think you don't like him because he's brown. I'm giving him shit, right? And he goes like, no, man, it's because he wrecks. And literally the guy says that, and some shit goes up in flames, and I'm seeing cars flipping. And I'm like, oh, snap, what happened? And the guy goes, it's fucking Juan Pablo.
Was it?
Sure enough, it was Juan Pablo.
He was right.
He was right. I was like, God damn it, Juan Pablo.
It's like, we got one of you in there. Can you hold it together?
I was like, yep. I was like, we got the one Latino guy in there. Like, God damn. And he blew that shit up. I don't even think he finished the race. Or maybe he did come back. And he might have wrecked twice that race. Because I remember just going, all right. Throwing my hands up. Come on, I got to give you that one. But that shit was so fun, man. NASCAR lets you bring beer into, like, you can bring a cooler into the stadium. Yeah, it's the craziest shit. You can bring literally a cooler that fits under your bleacher seat, basically. Dude, we did this pit tour. We got to meet drivers. You get to walk on the track before the race. They have like concerts and all kinds.
So was that like special tickets that you had?
Yeah. I went through, at the time I worked with UPS. So I went through UPS. They sponsored a driver at the time named Dale Jarrett. So we did it through them. So obviously I got a little better treatment than I would have gone on my own unless I would have bought this crazy like VIP package type thing. So it was like a VIP experience, but still the actual race was fun. Because the other thing I didn't have respect for was the skill set that it's like, I clown it. I'm like, oh, here comes another left. It's like, and it doesn't look fast when you watch it on TV, but when you see it in person, you can't see a car. Like the cars go by you so fast. You literally can't see who it is or what it is. And then they're like an inch apart and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's those guys. And then they're it's super hot.
Yeah, it's dumb hot.
And they have that suit on. They got the helmet on. They have hot
peeing on themselves in those cars too.
Is that right?
It's crazy. Yeah, they have all this stuff, and they're like, they can use the bathroom on themselves basically if they have to, because some of them are in there for 5 hours, 6 hours. Like
true.
They go.
But they have to drink.
Yeah, they're being hydrated the whole time. Yeah, because they're burning out, right? Because they're losing a ton of weight. Because you can imagine Florida in July. This is like a race in July. It was one of their night races too, which also made it just spectacular. But I think the whole thing, because the NASCAR only does like 1 or 2 races in a specific city per year, it's a spectacle. So like there is the fighter jet thing is going over. I think President Bush might have been at the race that I went to, and it's hilarious because you can see Air Force One landing in the background of the racetrack. A couple minutes later, he's there, he's doing his thing. Then the race starts, and you see Air Force One take off in the background. Like, I mean, it was, again, the experience about it was cool, but again, the funnest. I think the people were super fun. The race was super fun. It gave me a new appreciation for what those guys do and go through and all that. But yeah, the fact, and we were there, dude, it's like 10 a.m. The race started at 7 p.m. and it, like, we didn't get bored. Like it was literally just a party the entire time, and then by the time the race was over, everyone's hammered and just fell asleep on the bus on the way back. Like it was. So
what
fantastic.
Was this Daytona 500?
It wasn't. It was the the Coke, whatever, like the Coke 600 or something crazy they do now, or 400 or whatever. It's like, but I think at the time it might have even been Pepsi branded, but it was one of those. So it was like the July night race. I haven't done an actual Daytona 500. I want to do that. I'll actually do that because, again, it was so fun. And then our tickets were like on the start finish line, which is also stupid ridiculous. Cool, yeah. And the race ended with like a photo finish. So just like to tap it off, like the race ended.
So you don't even know who won?
No. When you're watching it, you're like, oh shit, what happened? And then you're looking, and it took a minute for it to even show on the results because it was that close. Right. So then you see it kind of pop up, and they show you the Jumbotron photo of like literally the bumpers. It's like watching a movie. They show you the bumpers, and the other one's like 4 inches maybe in front of the other guy. And you're just like, so like the entire experience was just fantastic. But again, funnest, and the people couldn't have been funner. I mean, at the time, I just remember people, again, I had this notion of like, oh man, you guys are, I was giving them shit because they were giving Juan Pablo stuff, but very welcoming. People are like throwing beers at you like, hey man, you want a butt? And you're just, it was fun. It was really fun. Cool. So I hope that what this does is, obviously NASCAR isn't stupid. This is going to give them an audience that they didn't have before, because you're going to want minorities. You're going to want, a diverse audience of people if you want to keep growing that sport. So obviously there's that in this, but also you should make people feel welcome or safe. Because I will tell you now, if I was there, I don't recall seeing Confederate flags there. I'm sure they were there.
I'm sure they were.
It's 200,000 people. There's definitely
it's Florida,
some, right?
Bro.
Yeah, and it's Florida. Yeah, right. So, and again, and maybe it had to do with where I was. I'm in seats that cost a little more money. I'm in VIP tents and with, the buffet thing. So again, the clientele, the people that are there are probably not that, a little smarter than most, right? So that's probably why I didn't have a shitty experience. But, yeah, I go, this should hopefully open the door, because I think it was fun, man. If NASCAR can be that open-minded, and then you do get, it's also the last sport where white people dominate. So it's like, so it's because it requires like zero athletic ability, right? So it's like the last thing left. Like, at the minute they take out power steering, they're asked out because then it's going to require some kind of strain. Actually, I don't think they have power steering anyway.
Dude, and speaking of sort of country related stuff, right? Because I always related like NASCAR is always just in my mind, right? It's always like that's like a very country sport, you know. The group Lady Antebellum. Okay. So in trying to sort of respect what's going on lately, they changed their name because apparently, and I didn't know this, antebellum means like before the war, and they started to I
didn't know that. Yeah.
I didn't know it either. Yeah. Right? They could have left the name alone. I'd have been good. Yeah. But apparently, it means before the war, and it started to get used or became popular right after the Civil War.
Okay.
So then, when you use it, you're sort of referencing how things were.
Okay.
Prior to the Civil War, right? So them trying to sort of be sensitive to what's going on, they changed their name. What do they pick? Lady A.
Like we don't know what the A stands for. What the fuck?
I was like, no, dude. And so the
dude, never figure it out now.
and they're like, well, our fans have been calling us that forever, so we'll just use that. And I was like, but we all know.
We know what
we know what it came
for.
Right, we all know it came from. And I was ignorant enough not to know what the hell antebellum
I didn't either,
meant,
yeah.
right? You could have just left it alone.
They would have been better off with like artists formerly known as Lady Antebellum.
Put a symbol.
Yeah. Lady Anti-Antebellum. Lady AA.
I'm like, hey man, good for you for trying to support, but man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, like you said, good for them for at least kind of having the wherewithal to try, but like we don't know what the Lady A stands. Oh, Jesus Christ. Dude,
and
hilarious.
On that note, we've been going for about an hour, man.
I gotta call one more person a dumbass before we go though.
All right,
Mike Gundy, head coach of Oregon. If you don't know Gundy,
I love that guy.
Dude,
what do you
he's
do?
I'm a man.
Yeah,
I'm 40.
I'm 40.
Yeah.
So
I'm
this
not a
guy,
kid.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, he's like the head coach of, what is it, Oregon State?
Yes, Oregon State.
Right?
Oh, no. Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Yep. Head coach of Oklahoma State, college football. He's been a head coach there for years. I honestly, I can't figure out why he's been the head coach there as long as he have. It's not like they're winning a ton of games, but I guess, whatever. Anyway, he is out on a fishing trip with, it looks like maybe his sons or whatever, but I guess wears a shirt from OAN. OAN is that like super alt-right channel. It's like a network. And they're super alt-right. They're super Trump supportive. They're all this stuff.
Gotcha.
And he posts a picture of him online wearing this shirt from this network. Which again, like you gotta be smarter than that, man. Like, so now players are coming out going like, I'm not going back. So he's got like one of his top recruits running back saying, I'm not going back. I'm not doing stuff. Again, man, like support what you want to support.
Now I have seen this guy outright, in front of the media defend his black players.
Absolutely.
Right. So so kudos to him. Yep. So I don't think the guy's racist.
No, absolutely.
Right?
No, I don't think that from Mike Gundy. Like you said, I've seen him defend his players. I've seen him. He obviously, I think, to go back to, he doesn't win a whole lot, right? So there's a reason he's there. He's probably raising a lot of good young men, getting them graduated and all this. But you go as a leader, as a CEO, essentially, right? Because if you're a head football coach in Division I football, college football, you are a CEO of a brand, essentially. You got to be smarter than that, man. Like, you can't go around wearing something that's, like, that's like going around wearing, I guess, I don't even know what else to compare it to. Like some other network that was like who was the Breitbart or something? Like, was that the one that was like super? But yeah, like you just go in this climate, like, don't, like, just be smart.
But then is it acceptable to wear something that's far left?
So I think if you wore something that said like Antifa on it, right, like, or whatever, maybe not, right? Like, maybe it's looked down upon. But again, as a guy who is in a role where you are leading predominantly African Americans, you got in this climate, right? Like 2 years ago or whatever, we probably wouldn't have cared. It wouldn't even been a story. And who knows? Maybe the photo's old. I don't know. It just kind of surfaced and came up, and it was news. I didn't bother to see if it was something from like months ago or years ago or whatever. But you got to be smarter. I hope that it is that, but it sounds like it's very recent. And you got to be a smarter.
But do you think that? So take this guy, and I'm going to totally make this up, but he deals with a lot of African Americans, right? I would assume that some of them go to the NFL. Most of them don't, obviously, but maybe a good percentage graduate. Perhaps these guys are successful after the fact. And so what, like to your point earlier of like, he's helping to raise these young men. And if he's seeing a lot of these guys be successful, then, I wonder if his view of systemic racism is, it's like, almost like it's not what I see. Right? Like I see these guys come in, I help develop them into good young men, and some of them move on in their football careers, and some of them don't, but some of them, move on into other successful careers. And so they're just good men. And so does my political view or the station that I watch, if I watch Fox versus MSNBC, can I not say that?
See, I think, man, I think where I go on this is that you should stay out of the politics, period. I think you shouldn't go left or right, or because obviously I think that almost causes more friction, more divisiveness. Like, to me, just don't put anything. Like,
yeah, dude, but
of either one.
But then we chastise Michael Jordan for not taking a stance on the quote unquote right, the correct side.
Agreed, but I actually agree with Jordan not taking the political stance. Like, I think that was the right move. Like, I'm probably in the minority on that, but I do think, again, if Jordan's going, listen, I can't, maybe I don't know enough, right? Because he's going, I'm so engrossed in this. I don't know enough about all this other stuff. I want to stay out of that politics thing. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with it. Where I'm not okay with is if like the people who go, the all lives matter folks, like the ignorance of that. Or I'm not okay with you kind of chastising the people who are standing up for a movement because you go, well, I don't see that, so I don't agree with it. Like, that's not okay to me. But if you just want to be like, listen, man, I'm a supporter of you guys, but I don't want to sit here and either taunt red team or blue team or whatever. Like, I just lay back in the cut. So right now, to me, it's almost you either support the cause, which unfortunately I guess in this case would be left leaning, or you bow out, man. Like, you can't, especially I think being in his position, if he's running like a major corporation that's not predominantly African American and he wants to do that stuff, and it's fine. I think it's because of where he is and who is looking up to him and doing that, it matters more.
But again, to your point, I don't know if it was last week or the week prior. Don't you want to know? Don't you want to know what these folks stand for? So
for sure.
So kudos to him, right? Like, let him wear the damn shirt. Now, if there's some fallout from that, not saying that he should be fired or anything like that.
No.
But if the kids under him or the kids that were going to be under him decide, you know what? I don't want to play for that guy because of his political views or because of the news station he watches or what have you. They have that right too.
Yeah. Because if we're right about Gundy and we were saying that obviously he's been there for a long time, he's raising young men. If we're right about all that stuff, then it won't, not that it won't matter, right? But he can go into a locker room and go, guys, like, because he probably is like, I'm going fishing, probably pulls a t-shirt out of his drawer, just throws it on, right?
Somebody that just threw him a t-shirt.
Just threw him a t-shirt.
He may, I mean, again, I don't want to make any assumptions, right? But he may or may not watch that station. Yeah. He may or may not even know what the hell that shirt is, right? Especially when you go fishing. I don't know about you.
You get dirty.
I wear my shitty stuff.
You wear shitty stuff. Yeah. So I'd like to think that it was that, right? And then so you go, you probably didn't think anything of it, right? Just puts it on. So I would think that if he has the equity built up, right, because of all this other good stuff, that he walks into a locker room and goes, guys, like, you guys know me. It's not my character. I fucked up. I put on that. It wasn't, whatever, and you can apologize. And those guys are going to be forgiving if you've built that equity with them where they go, hey, coach, we know who you are as a human being. What we'll be telling, though, to me, is if players start to drop, then I go, okay, and you were looking for a reason to leave, because in college football, you're stuck, right? Like, you can't just get up and leave without sitting out. They kind of own you. It's really weird. So if players now just start to dip out, then it tells you, okay, maybe this guy, maybe there was a reason, or maybe some of them just use it as an excuse, like to get out from underneath him. I've only seen one player come out now and go, I'm not going back till kind of like I get an explanation on this or whatever it is. But
right.
So, hopefully, again, I'd like to think from a guy that you've seen defend players and all that stuff, but you just look at that and I'm like, you got to be smarter in this climate, man. Like, you just have to be. Like, Starbucks is dumbasses with the you can't wear. Did you see that this week?
No,
Starbucks, when I was like, our associates cannot wear anything related to Black Lives Matter. And while I get that you're a corporation and you have uniform standards and all this stuff, right? Like, it is the wrong time to take a stance on that, right? So then they had to backtrack really fast and go, no, we're going to make our own shirts and then we'll distribute those, for the uniformity of it. But initially they're like, no, you're not allowed to wear any of that.
Right. Well,
which again, I get, because if you're at a job where you have to wear a uniform, I think right now things are so, it's so sensitive at the moment, right? Because it's a big thing, but, and rightfully so. So for you to come out right now, it's like, pick your battles, man. You guys are coming out of this COVID thing. You're finally reopening shops. Like, the last thing on my mind right now, if I'm running a Starbucks, is my employee showing up with a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. Like, that's the least of my worries.
Don't they wear aprons anywhere?
Yeah. And again, for you to come out and say they're not allowed to wear anything, and then they had to backtrack within like hours, because it just no one sat in a board and went, guys, we're going to do this. And no one went, yeah, that's probably a shitty idea right now. Why don't we just send them shirts that they can wear to say, hey, we're going to support the cause and wear these because we want the uniformity. Right. We are trying to run a business here. So we do want to support you. Let's send out shirts ourselves. And who knows, maybe that was the intent the entire time and the communication was lax. But it's like, it's mind blowing to me how many
the wrong person out there to deliver them.
They said, that was the one person that volunteered. That was the one guy not working from home. They're like, who's here? Send Bob. Jesus Christ. Oh, man.
All right, brother. On that note, I want you all to know. This is something I want you all to know. Right now, I'm sweating my ass off.
Yeah, for real.
Juan has his place like a freaking sauna.
Upgrades to the studio coming.
But once again, thank you guys for listening. And hit us up on, you tell them where to hit us up, because I forget all the time.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review, man. Leave us some comments. We're literally on we're on platforms that I've never even heard of so we're on TuneIn. We're on Podchaser. Just everything, man. So hit us up, subscribe, send us notes. Shout out to my brother-in-law, Matt, who's like basically our creative services department. He's created the logos, multiple versions of it, by the way. And Matt. Shout out to Matt, and was patient with us with all the changes and stuff and going back and forth, man. I love that guy, man. He made some cool stuff.
Matt made me look handsome on the
on
the logo.
We look good as cartoons. All right, thank y'all. See y'all next week.
Peace.